My name is Esther, and I'm a master's student in Latin American Studies.
What led you to pursue your master's in Latin American Studies, and what drew you to this field?
That's actually a really fun story. And the answer is I found a book in a little free library over in downtown Albuquerque, and it was about social infrastructure by a sociologist from NYU. And I was super curious about the book, and so I wanted to know if studying social infrastructure could sort of give us an idea about the health of a community. And so I pitched an independent study idea to the sustainability studies, and I went to Colombia for a summer. And I walked around and I took pictures of graffiti and social spaces and parks, and I talked to people and Uber drivers, and it was such an amazing experience for me. And I met some really wonderful people that I came back and wrote about that experience and decided that I wanted to pursue Latin American studies so that I could have more opportunities to sort of transfer knowledge and learning from Latin America to the Southwest and vice versa.
You've shared that we shouldn't have to choose between protecting the earth and protecting people. What does mean to you?
Well, when we're talking about society and we're talking about sustainability, what's good for one is also good for the other. So when we invest in people and the things that create equality and the things that create justice, many times those are also the same things that are good for the earth as well.
Could you give us some examples?
So frontline communities are often the ones that feel the climate change the quickest and the most impactful, right? So when we're addressing the needs of the frontline communities and we're thinking about the things that will improve their lives, oftentimes those are related to sustainable measures. Let's think about fast fashion, for instance, okay? And so if our clothes are being made in a site overseas and the working conditions are terrible and the factories are unsafe, this is one, not good for the environment because of all of the sort of other factors that play into that, but also it's not good for the people who are involved in this situation, right? So if we're able to improve their living conditions with better wages and better factories and better chances at life and education and those sorts of things, it's going to reduce the output of fast fashion. We're not going to be able to buy shirts at H&M for $5, wear it a few times, throw it away, and then do it all over again because the cost is going to increase. But all along the way, it's going to better the lives for the people who are involved in that. And then it's also creating a better environment for our earth as well.
How has your experience at UNM shaped the way you understand community engagement?
So UNM has been an amazing place to learn. So I've had some really incredible professors, Dr. Andres Hernandez for one, but others that have introduced me to ways and then opportunities of how to get involved in the community. So when I sort of got dragged into participatory budgeting, Dr. Hernandez kept asking me if I wanted to be involved, but I kept saying no because I thought it sounded a little tedious. And I finally said yes, and it was transformative for me. But having the opportunity and the capacity and the space for students to be able to be involved in these sort of community engaged projects is really an amazing opportunity because it changed my trajectory and how and where and why I'm going and doing what I'm doing. And without having that kind of practical experience under mentorship and under folks who are kind of lead you and guide you in the way that you're going, I think it would be really, really difficult to get started.
Can you share a project or experience where you work directly with a community and what you learned from it?
Yeah. Actually, right now, I'm involved in a food systems project that came out of participatory budgeting. So one of the things that the community identified as a need in District 6, and most especially in the International District, is better access to food. It's a food desert. And then also, if you think about folks who don't have reliable transportation, it makes it really difficult to go and get your groceries and then come back. And then also, food prices are not great. So what they have in their area might be convenience stores or liquor stores or weed stores or places that you can buy packaged Cheetos, for instance, but not lettuce. So the idea was to identify where some of these pressure points are and then figure out how they could be addressed in different ways. So in that project right now, again, under Dr. Hernandez, I'm working with District 6 Councilor Rogers and some folks from the city, some folks from the community. And we are actually just piloting Albuquerque City's first food policy council. And this council is made up of folks from the community who have a stake and a place in there, and then also some folks from the university and also some folks from the city. And we're going to sort of look at ways that we could apply almost like acupuncture to those pressure points. And whether that's policy changes, whether that's making it so that backyard growers can sell at the farmers market, at the growers market that's being built right now in the International District. All sorts of creative solutions. We worked with a sustainability class that did research from all over both the country and then also the globe to find some really impactful ideas that could be perhaps implemented in Albuquerque. One of those is a mobile food market, for instance, and we're hoping that that's going to be able to bring fresh food to people who are more transit dependent. So, seniors or folks who aren't able to leave their home and those sorts of things. Oh, what have I learned from that? Oh gosh, so many things. I think I've learned how to be patient. And I've learned that conflict is unavoidable, but also it's necessary. That when we come into these spaces of horizontal leadership and when we come into these spaces where we're valuing each other's input and things that we have to offer, it's a process of working together, and sometimes conflict happens, but when you're committed to walking that road next to each other for a goal that everyone believes in, it's been really incredible to see the relationships that have developed, the community that's developed, and then also for myself just to see that transformation where I feel like I'm part of the community and I feel like I have stake now in Albuquerque and I have stake in the International District, and yeah, it's been really neat.
From your perspective as a student, what does meaningful community engagement look like?
That's a great question. I would say meaningful community engagement is something that honors the needs of the community first, and then us as an academic second. So it would be really easy for me to come in and say, as a master's student, I know I have some things I have to do. I need to write these papers, I need to do this project, and then impose my own needs on a community, right? Saying, I think you need this, I see that, and then take what I need and then leave. But what I think is more important is when we can find ways that align with the community's needs, and we can say, what do you need? And these are the resources that I have. I can do research. I have time for this. I have access to these sorts of things, to this network. How can I come alongside you and we can work together on a project that is impactful and makes a difference and a change in our local communities? And to me, that's the purpose of my education, is to use it to better the community outside these walls.
What has surprised you once you started working more closely with communities?
I think there's been a lot of surprising moments. I I would say the most surprising moment is just kind of watching my own growth. Because you don't know what you don't see until you step outside of a familiar space and start to hear from other people's perspectives. I know the first time that I showed up to a participatory budgeting meeting, for instance, I had my notebook and I had my glasses and I was ready to like sit in a corner and observe the process. But fast forward 9 months down the road of meeting with folks and weekly meetings, these people were my friends and these people were my community, and it was something that we were doing together. So I wasn't an outside observer anymore. I was now deeply embedded in the situation, and I had stake in the game.
In your opinion, why is it important for universities to stay connected to the communities around them?
It's really easy to maintain a status quo if you're in an echo chamber. And it's really easy for us to sit around with people who think the same things and agree the same things. And we could talk about theory and we can talk about, so and so who wrote this, and everybody around you is going to be like, yeah. But that silo creates a sense of isolation, and it also creates uh, an exclusive environment. And then if we stay in the space, we'll just keep maintaining the status quo over and over and over again and recreating ourselves. But when we're taking all of the beautiful things about the university, the access to research and education and new ideas and thinking and learning, and when we're taking those ways and we're engaging with our community and honoring their ways of knowing and their ways of learning and the expertise there, I think it changes both of us. And I think it's powerful for the community, but then it's also powerful for us in the university as well. And it's like a beautiful vehicle for change and movement forward.
Talking about moving forward, as you continue your work, what kind of impact do you hope to make locally or beyond?
I know this is going to sound a little cheesy and a little trite, but when we start locally, I think the ripple effects are going to ripple outside of our sphere. So for me, the most important thing that I want to impact is my surroundings. So my city, Albuquerque, the university, the people that I can touch and talk to and see in the grocery store, right? And then the hope is that ideas are subversive and they can be carried across borders and they can be carried across boundaries, and they can change the temperature in the environment and all of the places that they're planted like little seeds. I know that for me in Latin American studies, some of the most impactful sort of far off mentors have been like Paulo Freire in Brazil, and then Orlando Fowles Borda in Colombia, where they have shown us different ways of thinking and different ways of being in community. And when we engage with those ideas in the Southwest, in Albuquerque, in New Mexico, we're seeing some really, really beautiful results. And so I love the idea of starting where you're at, but then also maybe we're like a sieve and we're transferring those ideas and those thoughts and impacts back and forth in all of the spaces that we visit.
Finally, outside of your academic work, what keeps you inspired and grounded?
I love justice, and I love fairness, and I love the idea that we can do something meaningful with our lives. And so for me, I think those are probably the values that ground me where I'm at. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I love people and I love the earth. And yeah, I'm just having a really great time in the university and in the projects and working with the community and trying to find ways to engage in ways that are meaningful, so that I can look back on this experience and feel really, I don't know, really proud of how I engaged in that way.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us or tell us?
I think one of the big things that I really learned was that I thought I knew how to do it because I understood theory and I could write a really good paper and I understood the thought processes, right? But transferring that theory into action is much, much more difficult. It is really easy to go into the community and do things the way that have always been done. Sometimes that's been extractive, sometimes that's been harmful to the community, and sometimes it's been harmful to us as well as researchers. So I think for me, the most important thing I would say is to find a good mentor, someone who is deeply respected in both the academic realm, but then also in the community, because you're going to see the impact that they have had with the people that they're working with. And then go try it and go do it. And you're going to make mistakes and you're going to do it wrong. And sometimes you're going to hurt somebody. But the idea is just to keep showing up and to keep showing up with those values of honoring, honoring the voices around us in the same way that we respect, our academic or literary heroes in those ways as well. My name is Esther, and I'm a master's student in Latin American Studies.